I was brought down in a low place where I did not think that much of myself. And he built me up. He gave me stability. He gave me an identity. This strength I have now came from letting God's strength take over in my weakness. I rest assured that the God that led me here is going to bring me through. The new things that he is doing, they're exponentially better than the old things that I'm coming from. I would go through all of it again if it meant that I could meet God the way that I met him this year. Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be doing this video. I have wanted to make this video for so long, and I finally feel that it is the right time. I believe now is a great time to really testify to what he has done in my life, what he is doing in my life, how I'm able to get through some of the things that I've gotten through, and how you can too. I'm just very excited to talk about all the things that God has done, because I know there's a big emphasis on seeing God's hand through the physical things he does. When he blesses with the house, the car, the relationship, the job. But in this video, I really wanted to speak to the internal move of God, how God's hand moves internally. I personally believe, especially because of this year, God has to do an internal change in you before he can do anything else. How can he bring you to something that you are not going to be a good steward of and that you are not going to know how to handle? So before I get too much into it, make sure to like this video. Make sure to watch this video all the way through. I have prayed about this video. I have gone back in my Bible study notes for this video. Subscribe if you want more videos like this. I'm not going to get too much into my testimony. That is going to be for another video, another time. I just want to wait till a couple more things happen just so that I can have more tangible things, I guess. Not that you can't have a testimony without physical blessing, but I know my God is doing exceedingly and abundantly more, and I will wait until he does that to give my testimony video. I first want to start off with giving y'all some background. I first turned to God in January of 2022. I grew up going to church. I never didn't believe in God, but I definitely wasn't a Christian. I wasn't praying. I didn't own a Bible. I was just living life. God just never was really on my mind, to be honest. But in January of 2022, I turned to God for the first time. I was in a very, very low place. He comforted me. He gave me peace through a situation that it was humanly impossible to have peace through. That was the first time I ever experienced him, and he gave me his peace. From that point to where I am now, there has been a lot of ups and downs, backsliding and coming back, being disobedient, then becoming halfway obedient again. It has been a roller coaster. But since then, God has been a part of my life, something that I knew deep down I needed to go back to during my times of backsliding. Through that journey of God, I'd say from January 2022 to about August of 2023, God was showing me things. He was showing up in ways. The fruits that I was displaying would sometimes be of God, sometimes not. It was just a very up and down, variable time. Things got real for me in August of this year, August of 2023. I was so tired. I had been tired before. I had been at my wits' end before, which is, to be honest, the defining characteristic of my journey. I find God in my lowest places, and he's always there for me. But this August, I had known God for over a year, and things just were not looking how I wanted them to look. I was going through things mentally and physically and spiritually. So many areas in my life were coming together to just form an apex of disparity. I was going through it. I had no one to lean on. It was just a very hard time. And I knew the only way I can continue is if I fully give myself to God. I don't like to say that prior to this August, I hadn't given myself to God, because there were periods of time where for months I was in God and I was serious. I was reading my word. I was trying to submit to his will, trying to be obedient, trying to work on the fruits of the spirit, but I would just fall off at some point. But this August, I believe the difference was that I had been up and down with God for so long, and I was tired of the positive changes not being permanent. I was tired of the same cycle playing out in my life. I felt like for the last year and some change prior to August, my life was just revolving in the same circle. The same people come up around the same time. The same kind of jobs come up around the same time. I have the same problems in this area, and then I go to God, and then I'm good. And then it just becomes the whole cycle again. And I was truly tired of it. I think I had gone through like maybe 3 cycles from January 2022 to August of this year, and I was done. I was so done. I was done living life the way I was. I decided that either I'm going to fully give my life to God for him to fix and for him to do something with, or there's no point. There's no point in anything. If the way my life was looking was how it was always going to be, I truly saw no point in any of it, right? So I remember I had just cried out to God and told him, I can't do this without you. I decided right then and there, once again, I'm going all in with God. I'm going to start reading my Bible again. I'm doing all the things that I needed to do. I think it was that next day or that Sunday coming up, I had watched a sermon and it felt like God was breathing life into me. Through the sermon, I was just being encouraged. We have an enemy who wants you to not believe in what the Bible says about you. I had a lot of lies that I was believing about myself. I needed to hear that I was loved by God, that I was forgiven, that I am his daughter, that he has plans for my life, that he is always with me. I was created with a purpose and that I am worth it. It never dawned on me that I was believing myself to be less than until I heard this word and I realized God has a lot to say concerning me. He cares. I have an identity and a purpose in him. In that sermon, it also talked about how the enemy is going to try to take away your hope for the future. If we give up, if we stray from God, God forbid, we, end our lives or something, you are not giving up your past. You are not giving up your present. You are giving up your future. You're forfeiting your future to the enemy. You are giving up the possibility of hope, joy, and peace. That's what you're giving up. And that's so deceitful, because right now, none of us know what our futures look like. To think so lowly of yourself, I'm not even going to give my future a chance, that my future cannot possibly hold something better, it's deceitful. God has a lot to say about me and my future. So from that day, once again, was going full steam for God. The next month, I was heading off to college. I was hell-bent on staying close to God. There were its challenges for the first 2 weeks where I really had to decide, okay, Jaylin, you're on a college campus. You have the choice to either keep on following God, choose the narrow path, or find fulfillment in temporary pleasure. Ultimately, I chose God. I started choosing God over my flesh. And so now starts the process. Another defining characteristic of my journey with God has been isolation. Isolation seasons, wilderness seasons, pruning. When I first found God last year, I was in many isolation seasons, many pruning seasons where God had to show me some things about myself, about others. I had no one to really lean on but him. And so while I was going through the ebbs and flows of being close to God from January of last year to August, I still still learned things. I still grew in my faith. I still grew in my word. So isolation seasons have been something that I am used to. This experience was going to be different for me because now I'm not back at home in my room going to and from by myself. I'm surrounded by other people. You know, I was going to have a roommate. I was going to have suite mates and, you know, be on a campus and classrooms. I was going to be around people a lot more. With that came a new challenge of not just choosing God because he's all I had, but choosing God, period. I had a lot of choices to make when it came to the friends I was going to have, what I was going to spend my free time doing, who I was going to be allowing in my inner space and keep company with. Essentially, I spent the first couple weeks relatively by myself. I had to choose not to go out and go with the people I could have easily had temporary fun with. I ended up looking into campus ministries. I started to check some of those out, going to their Bible studies or their meetings that they had and things like that. The journey was new because for the last almost 2 years prior, I had been going through the same cycles that I was familiar with. And now I'm in this new place making new decisions, and it was very uncomfortable. And I spent many nights praying to God about the process. God, I'm in this new place. I'm doing life by myself for the first time. I'm navigating, creating my own community, finding that. What do I spend my free time doing? How do I have a life and find happiness and joy where I am? It was just a lot of questions, a lot of nights where I was lonely, you know? And so I spent some nights praying to God, like, I just want things to get better. I've chosen you. I'm living life in your will, doing what you want. I just want you to maybe make it a little easier. Give me some joy. Give me some community, friends, a purpose, something, right? About a month and a half in is when God started revealing some things to me. Like I said, I had started going to campus ministries and I had chosen one and I was consistently going there. I ended up being reached out to by one of the people who also went to that campus ministry. We became friends. And I know saying that it doesn't sound like much, but you guys have to understand that I had been praying for godly community for years. Even before 2022, that was something I had always wanted. It was one of the reasons why I felt like I had spent so much time in isolation, because I knew the people I could reach out to or the people that I could hang out with, they were not godly at all. So I decided not to. I had never in my life had a godly friend, just a girl you talk to. She's gonna give you godly advice. We're gonna share in similarities and journeys. I had never had that. And God set it up in a way that was so special because we were supposed to initially meet up one day. Things fell apart. And when we did meet up, we were able to talk in a way that we would not have been able to had we met up the first time. And we encouraged each other so much. We learned so much about our similarities. I felt the love of God so much in that moment. I felt so seen because exactly what I had prayed for was coming. With her came more Christian community. I had started attending a women's Bible study. I started having girls text me wanting to do enriching and fulfilling activities together. And in communing with those girls, God also showed me the things in me that I had not seen before. I was consistently hearing about the wisdom I had and the discernment I had and the knowledge I had. And they were asking me, how do you know these things? And how are you where you are? And it was baffling to me that other people viewed me and saw wisdom and discernment when these are things that I had prayed to God about for years. I have a Bible study book. At the end of every Bible study, at the end of every sermon, I write down a prayer list. It's just things that I'm praying for that day or just in my life. The fruits of the Spirit are always on here. A hunger for God, wisdom, discernment, consistency, peace of mind, joy, my heart to align with God's will. I had not been able to recognize God gave me those things from me reading his word, being in communion with him. I was praying consistently during this process from August to now, ending every single night with God, starting every single morning with God. I'm waking up early. I'm including Him. I'm not following Him out of habit or routine, but I'm genuinely building a relationship with Him. I've gotten so close to God during this time. God has stopped being a figure and has started being a personal father, a personal savior, a personal friend. God has comforted me. God has been there for me. God has shown me who I really am. That's the meat of my message. The work God has done in my life this year has been mostly internal. God has given me a new identity in Him, though. Because, see, the identity I had beforehand was based on my own characteristics, my own traumas and experiences that I've been through. Just like everybody else, you build your character and your personality off of what you've been through and just who you naturally want to be, whether you want to be a way out of selfishness or people pleasing or whatever. You build your own identity. And what God did for me this year was He deconstructed that whole personality. I was brought down to ground zero in a low place where I did not think that much of myself. And He built me up through my communion with Him, through me deepening my relationship with Him, surrendering all and keeping my eyes on Him. He built me back up and gave me my identity that He always had for me. I was always the kind of person, I wanted to be myself, but I didn't know how. I would try to be what I wanted to be, but it never felt genuine. It never felt natural. A lot of the jobs that I have had are customer service, like serving. You have a lot of person-to-person contact. In those situations, I wouldn't know how to really act, if that makes sense. If a person made a joke with me, or if a person came up and was having an attitude, and I would mirror that. If they had an attitude, now I have an attitude. Or if a person came up really happy and chipper, maybe I'd try to mimic that, but it didn't feel genuine and I would slowly fade off. I wasn't being me. I didn't know how to be me. I was just trying to be something. And I felt at the time when these things were happening that it would just come with age, and that, oh, I'm just young right now and I'm just getting out into the world and I'm just figuring myself out. But this year made me realize that I didn't feel like me because I wasn't. Because I was always meant to be the woman that I am now. I was always meant to be rooted in God. I was always meant to get my strength and my confidence and my assurance in God. I was not able to see all the inner work God had done within me until He had brought community around me to show me. And then I was able to see how much I had grown, how much I had changed. I am so different from the girl in August. And I know that's crazy to say because it's December right now. It hasn't even been 6 months, but I am a vastly different person because of what God has done in my life. And I'm telling you right now, when you truly give God your everything, when nothing is off limits anymore, when you get to that point where you are tired and you cannot do life on your own anymore, and you say, God, if you don't get it done, it's not getting done. When you are at that point where enough's enough, that's where God steps in. That's where He takes over. That is where the miraculous work is done. When I tried to carry the weight of my world on my shoulders, I crumpled. When everything was coming to me left, right, and center, I was not able to stand to the weight. That is why God says to take His yoke upon you. You find rest and freedom in God. I feel the most free that I have ever felt. I feel the most confident that I have ever felt. And that all came from showing God just how weak I was. This strength that I have now came from letting God's strength take over in my weakness. The best year of my life happened when I was truthful about how weak and vulnerable and unable I was. The best year of my life happened when I had my worst moment. It is so beautiful how God works. His power is made perfect in our weakness. And I did not understand what that meant until I realized God's hand moves when you stop trying to fight it, when you stop trying to figure it out, when you say the desires of my flesh that I have been trying to fulfill are leading me nowhere. And when I say desires of my flesh, I'm not even talking about just outright just wickedness. I'm just talking about being prideful and wanting to do your own thing, wanting to go your own way, wanting to take this job just because you want it, wanting to move to this city just because you want to. When you are just not submissive to God and you are deciding that your life is in your hands and that every decision you make is governed by you and you alone. But when you get tired of that and you stop fighting his hand and you say you are more than able, you love me, you are good, and you are going to do good by me because you cannot do me a disservice, and you sit in his hands. That's how I feel. Like I have just been sitting in God's hands and he's been guiding me. Whether he takes me high or low, I'm still in the palm of his hand with his peace, joy, and comfort. He has given me and shown me exactly who I am. He has shown me my purpose. He has shown me my passions. He has given me community. He is constantly instilling lessons into me. I am reading the Bible and understanding more and more every single time I open it. This has been the most transformative year of my life. 2023 was very trying for me. Many areas in my life became volatile and toxic. The last couple years have had their trials, but this year was the culmination of every problem area of my life forming and clashing and coming to its apex in my life. Through all of that, not only did I have peace, faith, joy, long suffering, self-control, I gained perseverance, I gained character, I gained hope. My faith has been at its highest this year through it all. Through everything that I have been put through, God showed me who I am. God kept me through all of this. He showed me once and for all that I could build my foundation on nobody but him, not even myself. I was torn down. Idols were broken. My ego was demolished. My insecurities were very apparent, and God came in and rebuilt me up in him. My old self was taken. I could not identify with who I used to be, what I used to do. And when I surrendered, he came in and gave me the identity that I always truly wanted deep down. I have the confidence to be my new self. I have no fear. I have no more anxiety, and I have full assurance in who I am today. It's scary when you break out of old patterns because now you're in this land of unfamiliarity. Everything that God is doing in my life, I am unfamiliar with. I wake up each day and everything is new. New possibilities, new choices to make, new habits to be built. But I rest assured that the God that led me here is going to bring me through. And the new things that he is doing, they're exponentially better than the old things that I am coming from. God showed up for me. He gave me stability. He gave me an identity. He gave me the fruits of the Spirit when I abided in him. I now have true hope and true faith in my God. I've learned him in a way that you can only learn through the process, through the nitty-gritty process, y'all. It gets ugly some days, it gets lonely some days, you have your good days, but this is the most fulfilling journey I have ever been on. God rewards those who earnestly seek him. I know this is just the beginning. I know the internal work that he's done in me and is going to continue to do in me, it's just the beginning. And I had to speak about what he did in my life this year before I could go into 2024, because I will forever bless the broken road that led me to where I am today. I will go through all of it again if it meant that I could meet God the way that I met him this year in these last couple months. I really hope all of this made sense. I really hope that this wasn't hard to follow. I want to encourage anybody who is where I was, who is tired, or who is maybe not yet that tired but doesn't see the point in giving God their all. It's a scary process. It's trying, but you have God. And the reason why it's important to know God is that when he is all you have, you need to be able to trust and know the person that you have. If God was all I had and I didn't get to know him, this process would be pointless. I wouldn't have the comfort, the hope, or the faith, or anything that comes from God. Because I got to know him, I was able to trust him through this process, and his grace got me through moments. On the other side is freedom. I'm so free, and I'm me. I'm really living in the fullness of God. And I don't have everything that I want, but I am so happy and content in every single day because of the fact that I have God. And I know the work he is doing now is amounting to something. If you want life, true life, it's found on the other side of the mountain of fear, of anxiety, of depression, of whatever is holding you back from giving God your all. And when I say giving God your all, I mean that person that you wanted to hold on to, that situation that you wanted to hold on to, that place, that car, that job, giving everything to God. Because rest assured, all you have to do with God is stand in an open hand posture and look towards him. Whatever he has for you will fall into your hands, and you don't need to hold on to it tightly. If it's from God, it will stay, and if it's not, it will go, and his grace and his love and his comfort will be there for you when it hurts. Like I said, I feel like this was everywhere. I feel like when I edit this, it may not make sense, but I hope you got something from it. The internal work that God does is just as amazing as that new car, as that new apartment, as that husband. It is just as important, just as good, just as fulfilling. God is not going to be good when he blesses me with the full desires of my heart. He is good now. He was good yesterday, and he was good when I was depressed. He has been good through it all. I'm praising him from the depths of my soul right now, and even more so later on when more comes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that this resonates with at least one person who is on the fence, was thinking about it. This video is for you, girl.